From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building trains with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the prize.
From the battlefield to the boardroom, this is Dog Tags to Ownership, the podcast where veterans share their journeys from serving our nation to leading in business. Hear inspiring stories of grit, growth, and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives those who serve to succeed. Tune in and take the first step toward your own mission in entrepreneurship.
Military One Percenters, welcome to Dog Tags to Ownership, where once a week we interview veterans who charted a path towards entrepreneurship. Our goals are to share resources, advice, and success stories about starting a business, discuss strategies for building financial independence and creating your own path, and most importantly, build a community to support each other through the challenges of transitioning from service life to civilian ownership. Well, Matt, here we are today. Episode 38 is our recap episode, recapping episodes 35 through 37. Episode 35 with Jerry Gadori of RedBeard Solutions, also the author of Destination Employer. Episode 36 with Dan Clare, the Chief Communications Officer for the Disabled American Veterans, better known as DAV. And then episode 37 with retired Marine Leroy Brown of Leroy Brown Art. And I guess one of the biggest takeaways from those past three episodes is, and we had to interview 3 Marines. That was crazy.
I know. None of them ate crayons during the interview either, so
No,
it's
I
bad
I
shape.
haven't talked to that many Marines since I think I was in Iraq at Ramadi Station with the Marines. But yeah, it was great to see, all these Marines that are turning their dog tags into ownership. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
3 very sharp Marines.
Yeah, which you
The
wouldn't
3 P.
usually say in the same sentence.
No.
We're just kidding. We love you Marines that are out there. You guys are amazing. We just have to poke a little bit of fun. Matt, you want to kick it off with episode 35 and Jerry, or you want me to do it?
You can go ahead and do that.
Okay. So episode 35 with Jerry Gadori, I think one of the biggest things for him was when he got out of the Marines and went into the civilian sector. He was talking about leadership and how he had to really change his leadership style from how you are a leader in the military to being in the civilian sector. And he, told us a little anecdote about one of his bosses would send people to him for him to be on his team that they didn't really want them anymore. And after about the third one, he was like, "I'm probably not doing something right, and I need to change this." And I think that probably resonates. I know for a lot of us veterans, because for so long it's ingrained to us about leadership and how we do leadership, and everybody tells us, we that's the one thing that we have over everybody else is our leadership abilities. But there is a certain way in which we, I guess, conduct leadership in the military. And I thought it was very just, I thought it was just very vulnerable, I guess, for him to be able to come on and say like, "Hey, I wasn't a great leader. There are some things I had to change about myself to be able to be a leader in the civilian sector." And then he was able to do that. And then from there, that has just propelled him to what he's done today with RedBeard Solutions, but even more so writing his book, to really help folks build strong teams and recruit talent to build those strong teams.
I think for folks, and I agree with you, that I think there is a expectation as veterans separate from the military. Like if there's a trait or quality that we bring, it is that leadership component. But I think we can probably agree that for every great leader we had while serving, there was an equally terrible leader. And so it's not a given. It's something that, and I know Jerry talked about continuing to work at it. He's a lifelong learner. What he decided to do is step back and sort of educate himself to improve his leadership abilities upon separating from the Marine Corps. So something we find in a lot of our guests, that they're lifelong learners. They are big on self-improvement, continuing to grow, that sort of thing. And Jerry certainly exhibits all of those qualities, so much that he did a startup and then probably could have retired on a beach after that startup was sold, but decided to start another company that I know focuses more on bridging technology with talent acquisition, essentially that finding that crosshair of good people in a particular technology sector and matching that up, which is what he's extremely good at doing and what he is sought after for at this point with RedBeard Solutions.
Yeah, and I think we'd be remiss if I didn't just mention, his YouTube channel. He has a huge YouTube channel following. That's where his podcasts are. That's also where he does a lot of his veteran outreach. So I would just empower folks to go look him up on YouTube, Jerry Gadori. It's at Jerry Gadori. He has like I said, a huge YouTube following, but it's also where he talks a lot about the things from Destination Employer, how to help people build strong teams. But then also provide some of those nuggets for veterans and how to use your benefits when you're looking into entrepreneurship or just need benefits in general. So I think just a great amazing human. I know Matt called him old multiple times on the podcast.
I never did.
He took it in jest, but really enjoyed talking with him and having him on.
I simply asked him to recall some information from the 90s, and I wasn't sure, if he could recall that far back.
I mean, I'm just gonna say, Matt, that I think that his memory is better than yours because prior to us coming on this podcast, I asked you to recall some information from 2 months ago, and you could not, and Jerry could recall from the '90s, so I think you should, definitely shoot him a note, tell him that you're sorry, and, we can all move on from there.
I think he called me an ageist or something to that
Yes,
effect. We had a
yes,
lot of fun. I mean, you
yeah,
could tell he's a polished, experienced podcaster. I just had a lot of fun with that episode, and yeah, bringing that up repeatedly throughout the interview was fun. Had a good time with Jerry.
yeah, yeah, so then that brings us to episode 36 with Dan Clare, the Chief Communications Officer for the Disabled American Veterans, or DAV. Really, like, yes, Dan is not an entrepreneur, but he works for an organization that really gives back to military members, veterans, especially our disabled population. And so we thought it was very important to bring them on. And then one of the biggest things that we really thought was important to bring Dan on for the podcast was the Patriot Boot Camp and him talking about Patriot Boot Camp and what DAV provides through the Patriot Boot Camp. And they have one coming up in October. I don't know if it's closed for people to
Is it computer register or?
yeah, to register to try to get just to be able to go, but then they have another one in February timeframe in Myrtle Beach. So if you're out there and you have an idea or you're not sure about entrepreneurship or you think you have this great idea, you just don't know where to get started, definitely register or try to get selected for the Patriot Boot Camp. If you don't get selected for the one in October, maybe you will for the one in February or some of the later cohorts. But they offer so many services through that Patriot Boot Camp that we thought it was really important to bring them on to talk about that, because that is, one of the big things for the podcast is building that community so that we can share some of those resources that are out there. And that was one of the whole reasons we started this podcast is because a lot of information isn't easy to find. So Dan was able to share that, come on and talk a little bit about his military experience, and then what DAV does for veterans and just and how beneficial that can be for folks that want to get into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, we couldn't have gotten a better guest, I think, from DAV to come on other than their communications officer to talk about all of the plethora of services that DAV does to support veterans. And really cheerleading, competing for, and representing veterans day in and day out. I mentioned my departure from the military, my retirement from the military, and Dan was, gracious enough to share, a lot of the information for what veterans are potentially eligible through DAV, the services they offer. Another point I wanted to talk about with them. Oh,
Yes.
you're going to the Patriot Boot Camp.
I am. I am going to Patriot Boot Camp. They are setting us up well, I guess just me. You're not coming along on this one, so it'll just be Julie. But they are setting me up a podcasting studio there, so I can bring in some of the folks that are there who have their ideas, talk to them, interview them, and then we will have a whole episode dedicated to Patriot Boot Camp and the aspiring and already established entrepreneurs that are there, and then also talk with some of the mentors that are there and get their stories. So pretty pumped about that. Yep, bought my flight. Gonna be going out there, staying there, get there late on a Wednesday, be there all day Thursday, a little bit in the morning Friday, and then depart. But really excited to get out there and meet some folks and just help bring this community together a little bit more for everyone.
That the Patriot Boot Camp, correction, the Patriot Boot Camp, awesome endeavor that they've partnered with other, because that was started by another organization, I believe. But Dan talked about 350 people on average would compete for one of the 50 slots. So it's not a given, and it seems highly competitive. And he said the beauty in that is the better the competition, the better the cohort they get, and the better the cohort, I think the bigger the takeaways that the participants have, right? Because being able to kind of share and learn from each other, probably share in the challenges that different entrepreneurs with different backgrounds have had is a good way to learn and improve, I guess. So you're gonna have a lot of fun. I'm gonna catch you on the one to Myrtle Beach, I think,
Yeah.
if you go back. I was
Yeah.
gonna say maybe it's time to get like a banner, like a table banner or something, dog tags
Yeah.
owner.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to get something. Yeah. You might have to
Boost.
work on that. Put that on your list of things to do.
Things to not do after the base
Yeah.
things to do after the basement's done.
Yeah, yeah, but, no, really pumped about that, and then excited we'll both get to go to the one in Myrtle Beach, and then hopefully we can round it out with going to their annual conference in Vegas next summer and seeing who the pitch contest winner will be and doing an interview with that person. I think it's a great opportunity for us to partner with someone, but then to also to continue to tell stories of folks that are, aspiring to be entrepreneurs or already are entrepreneurs. And then the last episode, episode 37, with Bad Leroy Brown, aka not Bad Leroy Brown. Leroy Brown, retired US Marine Corps as well, and the owner, artist, founder, shipper, everything of Leroy Brown Art. I'll let you get into Leroy.
No, I mean, incredibly talented for anybody that, has listened or will listen to his episode. And I know it's on our website, but you can go to his website, check out his artwork. What I found, I think, most impressive is the diversity of his artwork. And we talked about that a little bit on the podcast, but I mean, he can do anything. And that's rare, I think. A lot of artists, not that I'm big in the art community, but they tend to have, a certain style, right? Or they do landscapes or they do portraits, right? They have kind of that like niche or specialty. And Leroy can literally do it all, and it's all very good. And just an amazing person. Talks about, like you said, doing it all, right? Creating the LLC, doing the artwork, being the one that's essentially pushing his artwork out there, doing his social media, doing all that. So kudos to him. It's fantastic stuff. And I think I think he's young in the sense that he's just he's just gone out on his own with the artwork a few years ago. So I expect, his business to grow. And he's in a great area for that, the DC area. There's money out there, people willing to spend money on artwork. Great guy, super, super nice. Good Leroy Brown. He's not bad. He's good Leroy Brown.
Yeah, and I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention when he was thinking about what he wanted to do after the Marine Corps, he knew he wanted to do something with his art, and that was a passion of his. And he had originally thought maybe he'd go get an art degree, and then he talked to a mentor and utilized his TA benefits, and was able to get a degree in entrepreneurship, which I thought was awesome. And really, he wanted to do that so that he could start his business when he got out of the military and have some basic knowledge of how to run a business with that degree. And now he's, utilizing his GI benefits to get a master's in business. So just using the benefits that he has to help make himself better and to make his business better. And I think that's one of the biggest things for our military members and veterans is as you're looking to get into entrepreneurship, what are the things that are out there that can make you more successful and make you just be able to run a business better. And he was able to leverage that and do his bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship. I think that was really awesome for him to talk about because I didn't even know there was that type of degree out there until he said it, so
And on top of all of the great information and content of that episode, he also provided what I would consider a life hack for how you gauge inflation,
Yeah.
which is the cost of a honey bun and a bag of chips year over year of what that goes off. So you have to listen to get that information. But no, he talked about, kind of factoring how you factor inflation into the pricing of your artwork. But yeah, listen, drops lots of good information in that episode. Great
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think to wrap up our recap here, one of the biggest themes is really from those three, great Marines, excellent Marines who are doing amazing things out in the real world and turning their dog tags into ownership um, is how turning your military service into purposeful entrepreneurship. Each of the guests just showed different paths through their Marine experience, whether it was they spent 20 years or 4 years like Jerry, but transforming those skills, discipline, and experiences from the military into businesses that create value, impact, and then help the community at the end of the day. And I think from all three of them, in some shape or fashion, they are helping their community and helping the veteran and military community as people want to transition out and get into entrepreneurship. So I think, at the end of the day, one of the biggest things that I took away from them is just your service doesn't end when you take off the uniform. It involves into ownership, leadership, and building something meaningful. And they all three have done that with what they're doing now. Whether it's with Jerry, who has RedBeard Solution and has written a book and gives back to the veteran community. Whether it's Dan, who's the chief communications for a huge nonprofit that helps military members and veterans and disabled. Where it's Leroy, who is utilizing his passion of art and utilizing that for therapy to tell stories and just help folks with that. So all three of them, like I said, just different paths, but all still giving back and helping others. So kudos and hats off to those three Marines and job well done by all three of them. Not anything to finish with. Hoorah. Hoorah. And so after this, we will be followed with some bonus content today. That bonus content is going to be with Charity Brown of the Happy CEO. And it was really exciting, or really cool to talk to Charity and sit down with her and hear about some of the things that she does that can help military members and veterans who want to get into entrepreneurship. Today, we are extremely excited to introduce Charity Brown to our show for bonus content on this recap episode. Charity is the CEO of Now Answer Group, an author, coach, and host of the Create Clarity with Charity podcast, helping business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders from various industries and sizes achieve their full potential. Charity, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today to discuss your journey and what you're doing to bring out the best ideas for business.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to share my 4Ps framework for the Happy CEO with your veteran group. I've worked with veterans for many years and worked with like Veterati, did a bunch of like 100 different mentorship and opened up my 5-star business accelerator to the veterans. And I found that they were the ones that succeeded the most because they were most disciplined and determined. And I really think that it does take discipline to be an entrepreneur, along with being able to guide yourself with your business GPS. And it takes a lot of discipline and dedication. So that's why I'm here to help make it easier, help them also tap into that happy CEO instead of the angry, hostile, bent out CEO that a lot of people just assume that people that own businesses are probably stressed and not really that happy because that's what the statistics say, essentially.
Can you tell us a little bit just about yourself, your connection to the military? I know before we got on, you were telling us a little bit about your family and your connection to the military, and then Happy CEO, as well as your Now Answer Group and what all you provide.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, I mean, my heart goes out to all military veterans and pretty much putting their lives on the line for our freedom. And my grandpa, my dad, my uncles, everyone, and my family, male, were military veterans. I was going to be the first female, but I had my physical, and they let me know I was pregnant. So I couldn't go to boot camp, but my heart was always there. And I've always been a big advocate for military veterans and people in the military because it is so strict. It is probably one of the strictest institutions in the world and probably one of the hardest things that anyone will ever do. And I've seen a lot of amazing people that have retired military or that are veterans now that are doing amazing and thriving. And then I've also seen the adverse side. And I've been to too many funerals and seen too many loved ones take their lives because they didn't have support or good mentors or have anyone to help guide them or be there for them. And some of the tools that I have in the Happy CEO, the 4 Ps framework, literally helps transforms people's inner fitness.
Can you talk a little bit more about like the framework? And is it the 5 Ps framework?
4 Ps.
4 Ps. Sorry. Can you talk a little bit more
Yes.
about that?
Yeah. So the Happy CEO has the 4 Ps framework, and it's power, planning, positioning, and profits. So I have a triple degree in business accounting and new media comm. I've been in business for 25 years. And so the tools that we implemented are pretty much stumbling blocks I encountered along with my clients because I've had over 100 clients. I used to own a business called QBooks Financial, and I had a lot of veteran clients. And I learned a lot from their mistakes, and I learned a lot from having an inside view. And so I put together, after getting certified from my mentor and coach, Alan Knight, who's a former Zen monk, who helped me overcome a lot of PTSD, inner turmoil, more confidence, more clarity. And so he certified me in his Zen Zone certification program, which is actually 9 steps to inner freedom, but we've baked it into the Happy CEO, and that's the P, power. So it all starts with us first and our belief and vision and clarity. And that's what we get in the first steps of the P. We really dial into the entrepreneur themselves, really get clear on what success looks like. You find out what the blocks are and what the limitations are that they're facing, and help them get clarity on that end result of them being triumphant, successful, and an entrepreneur living their lives on their terms. So the P, the number one step, is so important. And so we focus on that first, just because I think getting into all the business stuff and the business GPS, which is the planning. A lot of military, obviously, you guys read maps, you have coordinates, you need to know where your guys are, you need to know where your supplies are, you need to know what direction you're going. And so that's pretty much what the planning is, the business GPS.
Yeah.
It's the coordinates of how to get to that success and implementation by, you know, really dialing into the key fundamentals of business. And so, just so you know, the business GPS was endorsed by former Shark Kevin Harrington, who's the original shark from Shark Tank. And he actually, because we go over an investor pitch or a business pitch within that planning. So people feel real comfortable saying who they are, what they do, what problem they solve, who their client is, where they're going to find them, how much money they'll need to do that. Really structured format. And he said if everybody did that before they went to pitch a shark, they could 80% more businesses, because we really dial into what success looks like for them and if it's viable. Because a lot of times people have great business ideas and they're like, I've always wanted to be a carpenter or own a construction company or have a fleet vehicle company or buy a bunch of trucks and lease them out. But you really have to look and see if that's a viable business at the end of the day. If you're going to have a profit, be able to pay yourself.
Just going back to the first piece, so power, how do you help people when they come to talk to you about that? Like, what are some of the things that you do to help them with their just inner power, and being able to, I'm assuming, be able to harness that to move forward
Yep.
throughout the next 3 Ps? What are some things, I guess, that you do? Because I think that's very interesting that you talk about power and finding your inner power, harnessing those things to move forward. What are some ways that you help people do that through the Happy CEO?
Yeah. Oh, we have some great techniques and they are masterful and they are immediate shifts. So that's the one thing we really do want everyone to feel that they have that sense of self, because a lot of times veterans come out of the military and they feel lost because they've been primed, they've been programmed, they've been molded into our military. You don't necessarily want to live a military minded life. What does that look like? And a lot of times people lose that vision of what they wanted before they went into the military, what made them joyful, happy, and free, what got them up in the morning excited and exhilarated. And we all have that inside us if we dig deep enough. And so one of them is writing a list of things that you really love to do. Because it was hard for me as a mom and an entrepreneur and a student. I lost myself in being who I was. And so I feel like finding ourselves again, we have some tools where you can find out your personality type. We have the quiz that it will help you remember, oh yeah, I love to do this, or I work well in this environment, or these are the things that really light me up inside, and these are the things that don't. So I'm not going to set myself up to continue doing things in life that aren't lighting me up, but I feel like I'm like just have to, like, oh, I have to get a government job now because I'm military, right? Like, and there's so many people where it just feels defeating and they're not feeding their fire, their passion. And so we bake in happiness with the business. And so once we find they're happy, and we do dream boards, get that vision of, oh, I really love this. I love this place. I know I'm going to have a house that looks like that. I know I'm going to have family like this. I want to get a husband that looks like that, or like really get the vision, because it's hard. It's easier said than done to say, okay, close your eyes and, just imagine yourself on the mountaintop victorious saying, I won, I won. I'm happy. What are you doing? Where are you at? How much are you making? Who's with you? Let's really get into it. How much resources do you need? How much time? What are you going to do for fun? Like, really get the picture. And then once we can develop that vision, they light up. I've seen the shift in people like in a day. Once they figure out, oh my God, I lost my vision. I didn't even realize that I should be envisioning my best self in my greatest state. And once people find that peak state, and you just use that inner fitness, because we do this thing called inner fitness. So every day we have a power hour and it's all about ourselves. Instead of putting everyone else before us, we put ourselves first, and like really dial into visioning and really dial into the joy factor and make sure that you calendar your joy and where you're going to put in your fun time. It's not just all about clients and work. And so we get that balance.
As you're talking, I'm just thinking about, so Matt is on terminal leave, will be retired here in the next, what, month, 2
October
months?
1st. Yeah.
Yeah, October
Oh,
1st, and then I'm shortly there right after him, planning out my retirement, and will be a year behind him, retired. And a lot of things that we talk about on the podcast when we bring on veterans and we do the interviews is the purpose, finding your purpose again, and what that is post-military life, no matter how long you serve. Because like you said, there are things that are ingrained to us, by being in the military. So what is that, your new purpose? What does that look like? And what you just talked about with power, your first P, and helping people find that, I think is very important for military members as they are transitioning out. And really, if they want to get in entrepreneurship, like what is that passion? What is that thing that they want to do? So I really
yeah.
appreciate you sharing a little bit of that. And I think it can be very beneficial for some of our followers and listeners to maybe reach out to you,
I
to
would love
do the
that.
happy CEO.
Yeah, I would love that. And we also have just the Zen Zone mindset. So if it's a military veteran, they all get the 30% military discount.
Yeah.
And on all my programs, my books, and I usually feature them on my podcast. And we definitely get like press and PR and get their story written. So they feel really confident when they're coming out that this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is my mission. This is how I'm going to keep busy and stay happy, because it's a shock. It's like a shock. You're like, what is this life? Like I've heard it so many times that it's like almost debilitating because they don't kind of give you those tools when you're exiting. They're just like, oh, you've been with us 25 years. Have a nice life. You get all your pension, all your benefits. All right, figure it out. We do have a separate program, which is 9 weeks, which is the complete 9 steps to inner freedom, the Zen Zone mindset. So if they're not really into business, or maybe they just want to take a year off and they really want to get certain with their direction and they really want to be clear on who they are and what they want and how they want their life to be and find out the things that are getting in their way, we have 9 steps to kind of eliminate the stumbling blocks, the negative ego, the negative belief cycles that we've ingrained in our heads that continue, on our shoulder, in our little ear. Like, we need stop the chaos within and, get centered and clear on that. And I always recommend that for anyone coming out of the military. The 9 steps is literally like the best toolbox you'll ever have. And it's for you and it's for inside to fix, you know, all the burdens we have in life and how to let them go and how to move on to a better life.
No, it's in charity.
Yeah.
I think it's so important too what you're hitting on as far as veterans doing this and starting this before it's time to separate. And I'm not talking about like a year before or 2 years before, but maybe it's their first year in to start thinking about what's next, right? And because we do get caught up in the mission, we get caught up in the day to day, and a lot of folks only think about the next job, the next position, the next duty station, paying bills, taking care of family, growing a family, and there's not a lot of focus on themselves. And again, going back to the power, or in our terms, that passion, there's not a lot of time to think about that. So I think it's important the earlier you can start. For me, it's real estate. That was my passion outside of the military. So I'm fortunate enough to have known what I was going to do as I've transitioned out. And that's really, I think, kept me grounded. So I think folks could really benefit from what you're offering.
Yeah, I know they will. I know they will. Like, I almost like miracles. I don't know how to explain it, but I'll have somebody who's been so defeated and feeling so undervalued and just been so broken and went into corporate right after serving, and then that even took them farther down the road because there was no self-nurturing, there was no inner fitness training, it was here I am serving everyone again and I'm on the back burner and I'm, trying to fill from an empty cup and no one's caring. So it's our time to step into power and say, I'm taking my power back and I'm actually going to do me now and figure out exactly what that is.
That's great. And so if some of our listeners and followers wanted to reach out to you, what would be the best way for them to get in contact with you to be able to go into your Happy CEO program or your Zen program?
Yeah, they can go to my website, charitybrown.biz, and that's .biz. They can find me on Instagram, my YouTube. I have links everywhere online. You probably just Google me, Charity Brown. You'll find my booking link. It's pretty easy to find me.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll link your website to our show notes on
Oh,
this as well so that people
awesome.
can. And then also have you tagged on all of our social media if people want to reach out. But like Matt said, I think what you're doing, your business, one, it's very admirable that you're trying to help people find their inner happiness and be a happy CEO. But
Yeah,
on the other side of it, really giving back or helping veterans too with that because a lot of us do have a lot of struggles that a lot of people don't see, but they're on the inside.
mhm.
And just having somebody to try to help bring some of those things out to harness our power and our purpose again is very awesome. And we really appreciate you talking about that. Is there anything else that we did not ask you about that you would want to bring up to our listeners or followers?
Well, yeah, they could check out my podcast, Create Clarity with Charity. I also have the vlog video log on YouTube of those shows, and there's several veterans, very successful CEOs that have been, bootstrap their business from ground up. That's usually who I focus on, are the ones that really are self-made and that it's very inspirational to hear their stories because we really go down into the valley low and then the mountain highs and really give a good picture of what it is like to come out of the service, or any institution, whether it's school or corporate America, because they do take a toll on us. So it's good to have a community and mentors and coaches to work with.
I'll definitely link that to our show notes for this episode, and then link it to our website as well. So dogtagsownership.com as some resources, and then to your episode. So I think that is awesome. And we really appreciate you coming on and taking the time just to tell us about the Happy CEO and what all you offer for our veterans, and helping them really turn their dog tags into ownership, but more than anything, find their purpose again after the military. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you both for your service to America and everyone listening who's, dedicated their life to protecting us and making sure we have a beautiful country. So thank you.
Military One Percenters, whether you're brainstorming your first business idea, already running a company, or just curious about where to start, Dog Tags to Ownership is the place for you. Please hit that subscribe button to receive all new episodes. Also, if you know someone who has turned their dog tags into ownership, drop us a DM on social media or tag someone. We are always looking for new guests to bring onto the podcast. And as always, Military One Percenters, thank you for your service. Let's continue this journey and working together to write our next chapter. Until next week, keep pushing to turn those dog tags into ownership.
From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building trains with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the prize.